Really excited to make the journey to Appleton, Wisconsin, on the banks of the Fox River, and we're talking Stone Arch today, and the brewmaster with Stone Arch is Steve Lonsway, taking the time to chat with us here. Steve, thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the roots. How did this whole thing get started here at the Stone Arch and your involvement with everything?
Back in the early 90s, I was a home brewer as a college student. Fell in love with the art, but I was typically into the more American-style beers at that time. I did do a semester abroad program in London, and that's where it all kind of clicked for me. I really enjoyed the English beer. I really enjoyed how important beer is to society in England. So over there, I came up with an idea to open up a homebrew store here in town, which we did in April of '93. And was doing that, running that store and homebrewing like crazy for a couple of years, and realized that I wanted to take it to the next level. We did look at buying the local brew pub, which we're in right now. At the time, it was called Adlerbrow. It just didn't work out for us at that time, so I took another job with the other local brewery here in town. Was their brewmaster for just over 6 years. And then was able to work up enough funds to take this place over, which we did in 2004.
Going back to 2004, and I guess where we are today, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen, with the business, and not just the business too, but, maybe even the customer that, sits down and enjoys a glass?
Well, first, we'll start with the customers. There's more of them now than there were in 2004 when we first took over. We've really done well in the last 10 years of building the business, but the big thing that I see with our guests is there's a lot more knowledge of craft beer. Back in the day where you had to explain what a Scottish ale is, well, now they already know what a barrel-aged saison is. So there's definitely a lot of knowledge in the craft market in those 10 years' time.
Where do you think that interest came from, that knowledge of the consumer? Is it, going back to kind of how you got involved and maybe you're a little bit ahead of the times where now it's more in front of us, I guess?
I think there's a big movement for local products, and I think that's a big part of it. Plus, there's a lot of American-style beer drinkers out there, but there's enough craft beer heads, as I would call them, that might have shared some of their wares, or homebrewers, even to a American mass-produced beer drinker, hey, try my latest batch, and they try it, and then it just takes time to grab a hold of your taste buds, and it won't let go. And I think that's a big part of it. I think it's just it's more prevalent, and there's a lot of push now for artisan breads and cheeses, and I think that just plays the same role with beers.
Well, let's go a little bit through your lineup here at Stone Arch. I know it's a pretty big lineup, but maybe take us through a highlight or two that you would like to tell our listeners.
Well, our Scottish Ale is the first one that I always like to bring up. It is our best seller. It's a nice amber style beer. We think amber beers are popular in the Wisconsin market. It's not too hoppy, not too malty, not too high alcohol. It's just an easy drinking amber colored beer. Super popular. Our next most popular is a vanilla stout, which is actually a recipe that we made up kind of just on the fly. And we ran it as a specialty beer back in 2004 when we first took over. And when it ran out, we didn't have plans of bringing it back until I started getting a whole bunch of calls and even a couple death threats that you need to bring this beer back. And it's really become a really, really popular beer for us, not only here, but outside in the retail market as well.
How about adding something to that lineup? Just kind of take us through, I guess, the brains of going behind it, the conversations, I guess, and, getting in there and trying to perfect something that you do release.
Well, we do. I've always kind of hung my hat on English style beers, obviously from my background. I get into I like hoppy beers, so I really like to try to stay true to American hop varieties as well as English hop varieties. But we run the whole gamut. We go from a honey wheat ale all the way up to, like I said, our stout or vanilla stout. We have amber beers, we have hoppy beers, and then we run 7 full-time regular beers. We also run anywhere from 2 to 3 or sometimes even 4 specialty beers, which could be barrel-aged beers. It can be high alcohol beers or just goofy ones with different ingredients. Like soon we'll be putting out a lemongrass rye, which is made with fresh lemongrass. So,
Well, when you're introducing something new, how long does it take to maybe perfect that perfect batch until you try it and you're like, this is it. This is exactly what we are looking for.
I never feel as though we perfected it. A lot of our beers, we don't play around with the recipes. We keep them consistent. As far as perfection, I don't think we'll ever hit perfection. I don't think many brewmasters think they hit perfection. So we're always trying to tweak, especially our specialty beers. We're always trying to tweak them and try to make them better year after year after year. But once our regular beers have gained the popularity that they have now, we can't change them. So those just stay consistent. But we're pretty proud of them, though, nonetheless.
Based out of Appleton, Wisconsin, as I mentioned before, where's your distribution go? How far reaching, I guess, are you guys now?
We're in about 20 counties throughout Wisconsin, which sounds like we're kind of widespread. It's really focused more on like the Outagamie County, Winnebago County, Brown County. We have 3 distributors, one that really hones in on our local market. That's our very, very strongest market. And then our second distributor has, I think, 13 or 14 counties up in the northern region of Wisconsin, which isn't real craft-centric at this point. So we do have some splash handles up in that market. But again, we're focusing more really on right around Lake Winnebago and a little bit into the Door County region right now.
Yeah, you mentioned those counties there kind of in northeast Wisconsin. What goes into that decision to, maybe spread out a little bit further and to push the market a little bit?
Well, it's really what we can handle. We are a small brewery. We do only brew on a 7-barrel brew house, which is a little over 215, about 217 gallons per batch. So we can't get too far spread out with it. Again, we want to focus on our local market and just kind of permeate from our nucleus. And we find that is a good business route, following the leads from other breweries that have been successful in the country.
Well, if people come out here to, the Stone Cellar, which is the brew pub you guys have here, Stone Arch Brew House as well, what are some of the highlights, some of the things you guys present here?
I think number one would be our very unique dining room and pub. We're in a building that was built in 1858, and it was originally built as a brewery. So the walls in our pub and our dining room are fieldstone that was harvested back in the 1850s. So that's number one. Number two, we have a really neat beer garden, weather permitting, and we do a lot of live music out there, again, weather permitting. And then the very unique and busy brewery that we have on the main level of the building that has the tap room, has our bottling hall, and all our brewing production facility.
So where do you see Stone Arch 5 years from now?
I'm trying to figure that out right now. As the craft market expands, and as we expand our market, it's not going to be too much longer where we're going to outgrow these walls. And like I said, these stone walls that we just talked about are about 6 feet thick. So you don't just move them and expand. So if we are to take the next step, it would be in an off-premise brewery, which would just be the microbrewery. We would keep the brew pub. We'd keep the small brew system here for doing test batches and specialty beers and such. But in 5 years, I'd like to see us be in a production facility as well as what we currently have.
Well, a couple more things here, Steve. I guess the word advice for the beer enthusiasts listening to this right now. What advice would you have for them? And I'm going to take this into consideration. I explained it to you. I'm a budding beer enthusiast, hence doing this radio show. But what advice do you have for people like me?
Well, when I first started out, I read everything I could get my hands on. And at that time, in the early 90s, there wasn't nearly as much as there is now. So it'd be a little bit more of a challenge now, but there's a lot of good information out there. The other thing is homebrewing. I don't think I shouldn't say you can't be successful as a brewmaster if you've not homebrewed, but it's sure going to help you along. So brew a lot and read a lot and try some along the way.
That's always the best part, right, is trying the product. Well, how can people find out more about Stone Arch and what you guys do here?
Well, we have 2 websites. We have stonecellarbrewpub.com, which is our main website for our restaurant and brewery pub. Then we have stonearchbrewhouse.com, which is more centered around our beer itself. But either one of those websites will get you to the other one anyway. So pick one and go with it.
Anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else unique maybe I didn't hit on here?
I guess our newest thing right now is we've been playing around with some barrel aging. So in the near future, we'll have some decent products coming out that have been barrel aged for up to 18 months, some higher gravity beers and such. So we got some neat things coming up, and we'll keep going.
Some great things to look forward to. Steve Lonsway, brewmaster here with Stone Arch, taking the time to chat with us. Steve, thank you so much for spending some time, and all the best with the future endeavors, all right?
Thank you very much.